So David, I want to ask you a question that a lot of us get from our Muslim friends when we witness to them. And perhaps I think it's because the Muslims are sensitive to the fact that sometimes Christians say that Islam is violence. Well, they want to flip that back on us and say, you Christians are the violent ones. And they like to bring up the topic of the Crusades. How do you answer that when a Muslim does that?
Well, my claim against Islam is not, hey, there are some violent Muslims. If that were the claim, if the claim were, oh, look, there have been some violent Muslims, then obviously you could say, well, there have been some violent Christians, and so you're being hypocrites by bringing that up. Our claim is that the Quran and the other Muslim sources call for the violent subjugation of the world. It calls for ongoing violence. And so it's just an ideology that's going to lead to ongoing violence from people who really take it seriously and don't bother to reinterpret it. So if you read the Quran from beginning to end, you find that the final marching orders, the marching orders for Muslims who really take this seriously and don't reinterpret, is that when they are in a position to violently subjugate the unbelievers, they're supposed to do that. If they're not in a position to do that, they don't have to do that. But when they're in a position to violently subjugate, they're supposed to do that. Christians are not called to do that. Right? Jesus said that we are to love everyone, including our enemies. Jesus told his followers, he told Peter, put down your sword, for those who live by the sword will die by the sword. If we're supposed to love everyone, and we're supposed to seek the good of everyone, and we are, as we're commanded, to pursue peace with all men, then obviously we're not called to go around violently subjugating the world. If particular Christians at some time do that, well, that's on them, but it's not their religion that's calling for it. The question is, is that what the Crusades were? People going out and trying to violently subjugate the world. Well, you did have horrible people doing horrible things during the Crusades. The overarching goal was that Christian pilgrims who were taking trips to the Holy Land were being stopped and kidnapped and put into slavery or sold for ransom and things like that. And you had basically a Muslim invasion into Spain, basically all along the bottom of the southern area of Europe. You had pirate havens, and then you had into Spain, and also in the east, constant invasions. And the idea was, instead of just sitting here, let's take the fight over there. So, from a political perspective, I think you could justify it as a military strategy. With that said, there were horrible people doing horrible things. But guess what? If you're a horrible person doing horrible things, you're not in line with the teachings of Jesus. Whereas if you go out and try to violently subjugate the entire world, in the name of Allah, that's perfectly in line with Islam. So again, the claim is not, oh, there are some violent Muslims. If so, then yeah, that objection would fall right back on us. The point is that you have all kinds of different ideologies in the world. There's that one that calls for the violent subjugation of the entire world. That's the criticism. So if a Muslim wants to respond to that and call us hypocrites, then he would have to show that no, actually Christianity calls for us to go out and commit violence. It calls for us to go out and subjugate the world, and it just doesn't.
Right. I think that one reading of the Crusades, and I've read some histories of the Crusades, is yeah, there were violence. It was violence committed on both sides. And often when my Muslim friends want to bring that argument up with me, they like to exclude themselves from that formula when they don't recognize, because I know, first of all, most of them have never read a history of the Crusades. I have, and it is exactly as you said. So I want to thank you for summarizing that yes, the Muslim is commanded to subjugate the world. The Christian is not, even though the Christian may have acted, but the Christian acted inappropriately.